It's the ESCtips.com Melodifestivalen podcast, bringing you unrivaled coverage of Eurovision's premier selection show.
If you love Schlager, bad pronunciation and all things Swedish, stay tuned to ESCtips.com.
Hello, welcome, or maybe välkommen might be more appropriate, because today we kick our podcasting year off with a preview of Melodifestivalen 2015. The bad news is, Andy can't be with us today. I know, I thought exactly the same thing. This is the one show where you need a Swedish speaker, or at least someone who knows his Gyllenhammars from his Geilenhammars. Luckily, as it's our Melodifestivalen podcast, we have two very fine Swedish speakers on the line to save my blushes. But we didn't just get any two Swedish speakers. We got two of the most well-informed Melodifestivalen and Eurovision aficionados available to anyone. First up, we have the man who proclaimed Sanna would win Melodifestivalen last year. Actually, we all guessed that, but not content with one mystifying act of divination, he later told us Conchita Wurst would be crowned winner of Eurovision way back in April. Now, there were times when people would be burned at the stake for such sorcery, but today, we welcome him back to ESCtips with open arms. Please welcome Sweden and Finland's own Tobias Larsson.
Well, thank you. That sounded good. I like the part about that I would be risking being burnt at stake. That's a little bit like what Eurovision world is like, because you keep predicting, and if you're too right, people will hate you, and if you are wrong, people will hate you. So, I mean, it's very interesting, but it's still great fun, I must say.
Well, we're hoping you'll get a little bit more wrong this year, but we'll be listening to you. But there probably are areas of the world where they will still burn you, but thankfully not here in the West. What are you working on at the moment, Tobias?
Right now I'm actually working on a quiz show for Finnish television. We did the first season last year of a quiz show that has a strong connection to Eurovision, actually. That we have teams and they get to hear 3 old Eurovision entries, and they're supposed to guess what country they represented, and then they get trivia questions about that country. And it was a great hit last fall, and now we're working on a new season that will air this upcoming fall. So that's what I'm working with.
Have you thought about inviting Andy onto that?
Any Swedish speaker would do, but a Finlandssvensk would be more appropriate, probably, according to our bosses. So I blame them.
And given you predicted it, are you going to Vienna this year?
Not sure yet. I don't know. It depends a little bit. In this freelancer world, you never know. But if somebody wants me there, I'll gladly go. I've been pining for Vienna for many, many years. I've been hoping for Austria to win for perhaps 15 years or something. So it would be a shame not to go, because I would have to wait another 47 years or something until the next occasion. So I should be there.
So there we go, advert to the BBC. If you want someone with original jokes, hire Tobias.
Why not? That's a good plug.
Next up, we have a person who eats, sleeps and breathes, but mostly drinks Melodifestivalen. He is Aftonbladet's Melodifestivalen and Eurovision correspondent, Torbjörn.
Hi there, finally. I've kept quiet now for several minutes while you were chatting with Tobias, but I just want to say that I'm happy that Andy isn't with us, because there's more time for me to speak.
Yeah, you are perhaps the Perez Hilton of the Melodifestivalen world. It's probably a bit of an in-joke for the UK Celebrity Big Brother audience there.
Probably, yeah.
So, with just over a week to go until the first heat, what's your day-to-day routine like at the moment?
Well, I've actually finished recording a quiz show, but this quiz show is much more nerdy probably than the broad spectrum quiz show that Tobias has been recorded. We've done.
You think more nerdy? How would that be possible?
Because the name of our quiz show on Aftonbladet will be Sveriges bästa schlagernörd, the best schlager nerd of Sweden. So we've been really nerdy, finding the best experts in everything Melodifestivalen, and I've recorded that. And we're also working on a big TV talk show that we this year call Schlager Deluxe, and this will be broadcasted every week during the Melodifestivalen. Yeah, blah 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 blah.
Did you consider Andy for that as well?
No.
You clearly haven't heard Andy singing Schlager hits in London.
I've heard it, but I doubt that he will recognize somebody that were 7th in 1978 in the Swedish Melodifestivalen.
I would. Cecilia Stam. Great song.
Oh, God. You're
Oh, right. I think we'd better move on.
Yes.
So, Heat 1 now, which will be in Göteborg, and that's on February the 7th, so just over a week to go. And first up, we have Molly Petersson-Hammar with I'll Be Fine, then Daniel Gildenlöv, Papa, Alisa Reed and Richard Soderberg, One by One, Dolly Style, Hello He, Berang Miri, featuring Victor Krone, Dera Vinter 4, which has far too many dots and circles above the letters for my liking. But next we have Jessica Andersson, Can't Hurt Me Now, and finally a return from Erik Saade with Sting. Not with Sting, obviously. Torba, there's one name on everyone's lips from that list, and I'm 99% certain Erik is bound to make the final.
And I'm bound to agree with you there. Erik Saade is definitely the one that will be sure to make the final, because he wouldn't be in Melodifestivalen again had he not had the one song he thinks can win it all again. That said, I must emphasize that Erik Saade has not got a really big career at the moment, so he needs Melodifestivalen to prolong the career and get another big hit. But he wouldn't be in it if the song wasn't the right song.
That's kind of what I suggested, actually, in my initial write-up. Once I saw his name, I thought, well, Erik needs this more than Melodifestivalen needs him. And maybe in a decreasing Melodifestivalen brand, as we discussed before we came on air, it's kind of do or die for him.
Absolutely. But on the other hand, I'm sure he's going to make it to the final. If he then goes on to win the final, I'm not so sure. But he will absolutely make it to the final. Other interesting names here is, of course, Berang Miri. Not only because he had a major hit the last time he was in with Jalla Dansa Sava, a song that did not make it to the final, but was one of the biggest hits for Melodifestivalen that year. That, together with the ones that has written this song, it's Måns Zelmerlöw, one of the writers, and we will come back to him later, but it's also Albin, who's had his big breakthrough. He's a rapper, Swedish rapper, had his big breakthrough last year, had a huge hit, and this is a song that he wanted to compete with last year in Melodifestivalen, but they said they turned him down because he wasn't well known enough. This year, Albin has turned down performing this song because he doesn't feel he needs Melodifestivalen. But I'm still sure that it's a big hit.
Do you think it's... I'm trying to find any kind of past history that it might follow, and I was either thinking, well, will Victor play the straight man while Berang channels Sean Paul, or will it be a swing fly type song?
I'm not sure. Swing fly type song. Berang won't be croning Victor Krone.
What a shame. The audience is really missing out here, I feel.
So, Tobias, is there anyone that stands out on this list for you?
I think, name-wise, I must say that for a first week, it looks a little bit bland to me. Erik Saade should be the obvious one to go on to the final. But then again, I remember Elena Paparizou from last year. Everyone was sure she would make it straight to the final, and she didn't. So there is this risk that Erik Saade comes in and only to overdo things. Swedes don't like that. When someone comes across as a little bit too, self-centered or
is this
sure
the old
Jantelagen? Yes, definitely. So I think that Erik Saade will make it, but there's a risk that it will become a little bit too much, a little bit too hyped, and then suddenly finds itself in Andra chansen. And I don't see him as a huge contender, like not having heard the song, obviously, but name-wise, I wouldn't keep him as a big contender for victory in the end. I would like to point out Rickard Söderberg, who is a very sort of prominent person. He's an opera singer with a very distinct look. He's very vocal on gay rights, and people like my mother know him and like him and think he's fantastic. I think he is one that could actually go in there and get all, what should I say, sympathy votes. People like him and they vote for him regardless what he sings. And Swedes have had a tendency to like opera singing in Melodifestivalen before.
I've heard that this is not so much opera, rather think more of a musical duet.
Yeah, but still, I think that my parents and people in the age of my parents could really appreciate him, whatever he brings along. So I think he could definitely be one to watch. And then I feel a little bit sorry about Jessica Andersson that none of us has mentioned her so far, because she would normally, I mean, her latest entry, I Did It For Love, I think is the song from Melodifestivalen that has lasted the longest time in the Svensktoppen chart ever. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
She should be a surefire finalist, but then again, she doesn't have that. She almost every time she enters Melodifestivalen, she ends up either she goes out on her nose, or she ends up in Andra chansen. So I don't know what it is, why she doesn't break through to the audience. But I don't think she will this time either.
I do think she has a chance, though, because people tend to really like Jessica. And she has grown on people, especially when she started doing ballads and more sincere songs rather than the up-tempo Schlager disco that I love. And with that, this is also going to be a ballad. She's going to be the strong. She's come out of a hard time, and she's singing about she's strong again. And I think that might actually appeal to people. But I really wish that somebody else that we haven't mentioned, Molly Pettersson Hammar. She's from the Swedish Idol. She's the ex-girlfriend of Robin Stjernberg, and she's got a really, really strong voice. I really hope that she will do well in this heat. And we also must mention, because there's only two names left, Dolly Style. This Yohio-looking girl band dressed like dolls singing Hello Hi. It's going to be a bubblegum pop song, apparently.
Yeah, I get very distinct pay TV vibes
with that. Of course. The gay's going to love it. The kid's going to love it. It's going to go straight number 6, probably.
I had 3 words in my notes next to Dolly Style, and that was avoid, avoid, avoid. I also picked out Molly because I kind of think of what Krista would like to start the show, and you would think he would want something to kind of start it with a bang. So that suggests to me that Molly should have a decent song. She's got the writers, and as you said, she's got the voice. So I think she's probably one to watch, and maybe for Andra chansen. And I also picked up Elisa and Rickard. Would you say that's like a like musical theatre song, or do you think it's more opera with rock?
I would say I haven't heard it, but I've heard of it, and whenever I've suggested that it's going to be a rock song with opera influences, people that has heard it has corrected me and said, "Oh, you need to think it more like a showstopper in a musical." It will, of course, feature Rickard showing off his enormous voice, but maybe not as much of his opera skills. And also, Elisa, his duet partner, is also she's the singer of a rock band, but she's also a musical artist.
Yeah, so both of them have amazing vocals, absolutely amazing. So yeah, out of the whole heat, that's certainly the act I'm most looking forward to. But anyway, we should probably move on to Heat 2 in Malmö. That's on Valentine's Day in the UK and many other countries. Now, starting
Alla hjärtans dag in Sweden.
Yes.
Okay.
Ystävänpäivä in Finland. Yeah, the Friends Day.
Starting the show,
all hearts stay.
We have.
Do you think that we're interrupting you now, Gavin?
Yeah.
Do you want to speak on your own?
I'm not as authoritarian as Andy.
Ah, good.
Right.
But
anyway,
you will cut all this off. Shut up now. I'm fine.
Anyway, starting the show, we have Linus Svenning, Forever Starts Today. Then Emily Iravuld, I'm assuming that's right, and Derok Dormidei. Samir and Victor with Groupie. Neverstore with If I Was God for One Day. Marie Berriman and Sanne Salmonsen with Nonetheless. And Magnus Carlsson, Mert Meya Gamlustan. And I apologise for pronunciation on that. And finally, Marietta, Don't Stop Believing. Tobias, we have Linus Svenning opening the show. How do you think he'll cope without the brother backstory this year?
What can I say? People seem to like him, and maybe he's a very likable chap. I, for one, didn't like Bröder at all last year. I thought it was, really, really cheesy and plastic and not my cup of tea at all. I wouldn't have had it in the final if I was omnipotent. But maybe he has a better song this time around. I don't know if he needed the backstory last year or not. It depends on how likable he is. Maybe he has something that everyone else sees and I don't. I wouldn't name him as one of the obvious favorites this time around, actually. I would put my money instead, and this is weird. I've been ridiculed for this already, but I think that Marie Bergman and Sanne Salomonsen will be because they have this box. They tick all these boxes just like Louise Hofsten did, like Sanne Salomonsen did last time she was taking part. There is an audience for that kind of mature performer. And they will have a song that is nice and melodic, I suppose, channeling an older audience here now. They will think that, they are just singing and they're not dancing around and they're not doing a lot of fuss, and they will just enjoy the song. I think there's a big chance that is the big shocker of this semi-final, that the press doesn't see coming at all, and that makes quite a splash on the night. I'd like to warn a little bit for that.
The thing is, you might be partly right in that there is a place for this kind of music with really good singers appealing to an older audience. But then you mustn't forget that performing straight after Marie Bergman and Sanne Salomonsen is Magnus Carlsson, a classic returning to Melodifestivalen with a song that has been described as, this is him returning to Barbados, Schlager, 80s pop, and he also sings it in Swedish. So I'm quite sure that a certain amount of the Marie Bergman and Sanne Salomonsen likers will also like Magnus Carlsson, and if he outdoes Marie's and Sanne's performance, I think they can wave goodbye to their final place. But on the other hand, Nonetheless has also been described as the Swedish version of the Holland entry in Eurovision last year, so that might appeal to a certain.
Yeah, and I mean, Magnus Carlsson's problem could be just as quickly if he goes back to his roots. If people start thinking that, he tries to come across as he was 25 again, and then people will find him a bit... I mean, he has struggled lately. He hasn't been as popular as he used to be, has he?
Absolutely not. That's true.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be sure. I mean, he could be like Martin Stenmark was last year as well, that people assume him to do well, and then people don't really get voting for him. I would like Magnus. I personally like Magnus Carlsson. I wouldn't mind if he had success, but I actually think Marie and Sanne are more likely to pick up the liking.
I would like to add something about Linus Svenning, because I think that it's a problem that he doesn't sing in Swedish this year. People really liked his very personal lyrics last year, and that he was affectionate by it. But I think that there is a big chance or a big risk for Linus singing in English, and unless the song is 100 times better than last year, he might actually be this year's the Monica, coming back after having a big hit, doing something that the audience isn't expecting, because Brother was a big hit in the kindergartens and schoolyards, and now coming back with a song in English, it might not appeal in the same way, and he might not make it. We should instead talk about the one and only song in this heat that will make it straight to the final, no doubt about it. It's Samir and Victor with Groupie. They are absolutely the only ones in this heat that can count on going straight to the final.
What about at the back end, Marietta, with Miss Lee as a writer? What's been the rumours on that one?
I've heard very little about this one. I think that people will be fascinated about having Miss Lee as a songwriter, but unless Mariette actually outperforms Marie Bergman and Sanne Salomonsson and Magnus Carlsson, she might have a bit of a problem here as well. Because that's Samir and Victor will make it to the final, and then it's Linus Svenning, Marie Bergman, Magnus Carlsson, and Mariette fighting for the other places, I'd say here.
Yeah, and I think there's a problem for this kind of performer like Mariette, is that the whole talent show circuit is beginning to eat itself. That it's not enough to have been on Pop Idol and been liked there a couple of years ago, because there are so many of these performers who have been already. It's not a merit anymore. It's not enough to have been liked once upon a time. She will really need to nail it. And I doubt it. I don't think enough people can relate to her anymore.
Do we think there's enough room for Neverstore, given that they've got a much softer sound than last year's Outrigger? Do we think that their slightly more pop Americanized rock will appeal more to Sweden's audience?
You never know with Sweden and rock. That's the unpredictable thing, that sometimes Sweden goes bananas for rock entries, and sometimes they just ignore them. So it's very hard to tell.
Yeah, and they need to, because the rock song needs to both appeal to the same audience as Marie Bergman and Sanne Salomonsson, the older audience, but also the Magnus Carlsson audience. That is also appeals to the older, but also the more Schlager interested audience, because they cannot appeal to the younger audience in this heat, because Samir and Victor is going to steal all their votes.
Has their popularity endured since their summer hit?
Absolutely, Samir is bigger than ever on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that, and social medias, and whatever he says, people tend to kind of either love him or hate him, but he's got enough fans to actually support him all the way to the final, not winning in the final.
Anyway, on to Heat 3 now. We're off to a new venue in Östersund, and that's on February the 21st. And we have another 2014 alumni opening the show in the form of Ellen Benediktsson. She's going to be singing Insomnia. Then we have Kalle Johansson in För din skull. Andreas Visa, Bring Out the Fire. Andreas Jonsson, Living to Die. Isa, Don't Stop. Kristin Amparo, I'll See You. And lastly, Sweden's Got Talent winner and pronunciation issue, Jon Henrik Fjällgren.
Amazing.
Oh, wow.
Very well done.
Jag är fri. Torba, is Ellen's change of image a massive red flag? And will Sweden take Jon Henrik Fjällgren to their hearts again?
I would say yes to both those questions. Ellen Benediktsson was open last year, saying that the song she performed, Songbird, was not the type of song she would listen to. She is much more into Depeche Mode and The Cure, and darker music. And if this song is that type of song, then she might not appeal to the audience that loved her for her voice last year. Jon Henrik Fjällgren is he comes from an ethnic group called Samerna up in north of Sweden, and he sings that special type of singing as well, jojk. And I'm quite sure that he will appeal, even though nobody watched Sweden's Got Talent last year. He will still appeal to people. But we mustn't forget about Christine Amparo, entry number 6, who was the female voice behind the Albin song Din Soldat. That was the major hit last year. And I'm sure that she will impress us this year in Melodifestivalen. So I would say that she is both a contender for the final, but also a contender for the whole victory if her song is as good as I think it is.
Wow.
That would be fantastic, and I'd say also surprising, because it's so often been that you have these really great vocalists, and then they do Melodifestivalen, and then you expect so much of them, and then they get this kind of songs that don't really deliver, and then they never get voted anywhere. So I would hope that you're right with Christine, because she's adorable.
She is, and the thing with this is that she hasn't been given a song. She herself was in contact with Fredrik Kempe and said, I want to do Melodifestivalen. And Fredrik Kempe doesn't write hundreds of songs and then give them to people. He writes songs specifically for the artist he wants to perform it. So this has been written for Christine, for her to make her solo debut in Melodifestivalen something to remember.
Mm-hmm. That sounds promising, I must say.
I hope.
What do we think of the battle between Andreas and Andreas? My own thoughts are that Living to Die is probably the lesser song of the two. And in fact, Andreas Wieser, he's actually said that his song can win. So I'm curious as to why he's so overconfident.
He is very confident, isn't he? I think that he's come across his biggest problem, Andreas Wieser, that is, his biggest problem for me is that every time he shows up on television, he gets so confident, overconfident, and then you get this law of Jante again. And people get a little bit annoyed with him, that they don't really wish him success. If he managed to work on that, possibly. As what comes for Andreas Jonsson, I like Andreas Jonsson, but I'm beginning to feel that he is like a Magnus Carlsson, like Magnus Carlsson used to be, that he keeps taking part, and his placings get a little bit lower and a little bit lower and a little bit lower for every year. I'm not sure. I think either one of them is a huge contender, honestly.
Regarding Andreas Wieser, people have been talking about his song being, and he's been wanting to do Melodifestivalen for several years, and people always tend to describe his songs as being kind of Robbie Williams, and I hope that is what he's going to be performing here, a big Robbie Williams anthem, and if that's what he does, he might very well make it at least to Andrea Hansen. Regarding Andreas Jonsson, I do think Tobias is right, because he's such a likable person, but his songs have been rather similar to each other. But on the other hand, we mustn't forget that this is Bobby Ljunggren writing this song together with Andreas Jonsson. That might actually give Andreas Jonsson, the Andreas Jonsson song, a bit of new blood. And it is Bobby Ljunggren's 45th entry in Melodifestivalen altogether, which is impressive in itself.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would wish Andreas Jonsson to come with a real cracker of a song, but I believe it when I see it, or hear it, rather.
And is there a potential Ace Wilder lingering in Isa's Don't Stop? I've kind of discounted that now, but what do you guys think?
The thing about the Ace Wilder phenomenon is that none of us saw Ace Wilder coming last year when we did this podcast. And I think but I mean...
Whatever you say, Gavin, we didn't listen to you then.
Exactly. Who were you? We were the experts. No, but I mean, seriously, is that you can't predict the Ace Wilder thingy because it's unpredictable in itself. That we can't sit here and predict who will be the Ace Wilder, because if we predict it, it won't be the Ace Wilder thingy. I have no idea about Isa actually. I've been sort of hoping, because I've been liking this Kalle Johansson, who won the Svensktoppen Nästa contest and earned his place that way. I think he's very likable, but I would be very, very, very surprised if he has the kind of song needed to break through. He would be one that I would like the audience to fall for, but I don't think they will.
Okay, so on to our last heat now in Örebro. It's February the 28th, back end of February, and heading the order we have Midnight Boy, Don't Say No, Caroline Wennergren, Black Swan, JTR, Building It Up, Hasse Andersson, Gulda Gunnarskrona. Oh god, here we go. Go on, educate me.
Guld och gröna skogar.
There you go. Just what Torbjörn said. Dina Make Me La La La, Annika Hurlitz, Et Andetag, Mans Zemelov, Heroes. Tobias, is Mans going to be your hero?
What can I say? It looks like this is built for Mons, because it's no secret that SVT has wanted Mons to take part for many, many years. Mons himself has been eager to take part, but says that he hasn't found the right song. But now he found it, and we don't know, do we? The thing is that Mons' career has taken a bit of a dip lately, because he's been saying and doing things that has sort of damaged his very all-round image. He's lost some fans, to put it like that. And
for the British viewers, what's he said?
First of all, he had this scandal where he was on a TV show where they got him a little bit drunk, and he said quite a few not too pleasant things about gay people, for instance. And he's been talking about how impossible it is for him to be with just one girl and things like this. So he lost a little bit of grandmother appeal.
To put things fair with Mons, he was yes, they'd put a lot of alcohol in him, and he was kind of pushed into saying something like, it isn't as natural for two men to have sex as it is for a woman and a man to have sex. But then this has been written about as if he was homophobic, where I would say that Mons is probably the celebrity I know in Sweden that is the least homophobic. But he chose words that weren't politically correct.
It came across very badly, to put it like that. I'm with Torbjörn completely here. It was taken completely out of context. It was twisted very badly, but yet it didn't look very well. So maybe Mons would need to have a little bit of a sort of positive input in his career as well. I think on a first glance, it looks like this heat is just put up there for Mons, that it will build up, and then he will come and just win it and get all the televotes. But you never know. That's the thing. I haven't heard the song, and everyone was building Hope and Glory up so much back in the day, and in the end, that failed to impress as well in the final. So we don't know.
But I must say that having heard people tell me about this song, this is very little to do with the Barcelona Session album that was a complete flop from Måns Zelmerlöw. And this is much more to do with modern pop, sounding a little bit Avicii, a little bit of country and western influences, but with a modern, straight-on pop chorus. So I've got my high hopes for this one. And I do think that this can actually put Måns Zelmerlöw back on the musical map as being an artist and not just a TV host anymore.
Yeah, he's been a very much family entertainer. I hope you're right. I've always liked Mons very much. I think he's been treated very roughly the last year or so. So I hope this is his big comeback, and it
But
looks like it might be.
Gavin, for you to have your eyes on, because you probably don't know who this guy is, Hasse Andersson. I think he's turned 70. He's a very, very, very likable person, doing a very typical Swedish Schlager song, probably singing in his southern Swedish accent that he normally does, and this might be even more popular than Mons in this heat to come to the final. This might actually be the one that is straight to final, 100% sure, whereas Mons has to compete with other artists. I'd say.
He's down in my book as a potential qualifier.
Definitely.
And the thing is, I haven't heard the song, but I've heard so much about it that it actually makes me smile just thinking about having it in Melodifestivalen and seeing him perform it, because I don't want to compare him to a few of the Swedish dance band artists that has been on lately, Lasse Stefans, Thorleifs, who hasn't been able to perform for the television viewers, but rather for the audience much more. But Hasse Andersson knows how to make both the TV audience and the audience in the arena smile and be happy with his type of singing and music. And also he does country and western Swedish way, so he might even appeal to the Avicii fans that likes the country and western tunes in Avicii's music. So I would very much say that this is a contender.
How do we see JTR? Because we've actually got a distinct lack of youth in this year's lineup, and are they just starting in Sweden, having come from X Factor Australia? Is it more getting coverage for them so they can launch their career, or is it actually we want to qualify?
I'd say that they want to qualify, but I think the record company is much more, let's show the audience who these guys are. They are the cutest boys. I want to cuddle with them all and just put them in my pocket or have them amongst my teddy bears or something. I really hope that they've got a great song. I'm not sure they do, though.
Do you want that left in the broadcast, or should I edit that out?
I didn't say anything naughty. I just said that they are very cute and look cuddly, like teddy bears.
Yes, very likable. I think their top, I mean, the best they can aim at is Andra Chansen, which I think goes for everyone in this heat except Hasse Andersson and Måns Zelmerlöw. The best anyone can hope for is to get to Andra Chansen and to pass on from there. I think this heat is very sort of given away in that sense. And you have a singer like Annika Herlitz, for instance, who is a great singer. She did Elsa's voice in the Swedish version of Frozen. And so all the kids know her and all that. But she's the kind of singer that people will know who she is if you explain who she is. They won't be like, oh, that must be her. They don't recognize her, but they need the explanation. And there are so many of the people taking part in this heat and in the other heats that people will know who they are only if they get it explained. And you won't really get a huge amount of votes that way, the way I feel it anyway.
Well, Annika's song, she's described it as big, powerful ballad with huge orchestration and strings. So I think that should stand out.
That is her positive description. A more negative description that I've heard is that this is a ballad from the Melodifestivalen or Eurovision in the 80s. But on the other hand, that mustn't be a bad thing. That can also be a very, very positive thing. Doing a big, grand Eurovision ballad in Swedish might actually make her song stand out.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Dinana again. She worked with some of the people who's been providing songs for Azerbaijan, if I'm not wrong.
Do you think she's a bit fierce, though? is she a bit too fierce for the Swedish audience? Because I think, like the Brits, I think the Swedes have an aversion to probably dominant females.
I think they've been doing a great job, these people who's been writing the songs for Azerbaijan, because none of the songs that they've had success with for Azerbaijan would have made it in Melodifestivalen, I'm pretty sure, because it's not the kind of songs that Swedes would vote for in general. So I don't think necessarily that she will have a song that will suit the televoting audience, and yeah, Swedes don't do fierce, with the exception of Ace Wilder.
We must mention Midnight Boy as well. If only to mention that the reason why anybody might know who that guy is because he did a music video where he stripped off completely nude. It was banned on YouTube. So if you want to see Midnight Boy's Willy, you need to Google Midnight Boy and the name of the song that is, it's When You're Strange, and you will find it on the Aftonbladet website. And then you can watch his well-built upper body and his dangling thing. Yes.
Wasn't
now
that
I've mentioned
a bit
that.
of a commercial for your newspaper there?
Yay! Exactly.
Yeah. I'd like to mention also Caroline Wennergren.
No. There's no time for that. Gavin, go on.
No, I just
Give him his
want to
moment.
point that one out. Caroline, it's been 10 years, I know, but she did take Sweden by storm then, and she is a bit charming. You never know. In this wide open field, she could just as easily make it to Andra chansen as anyone else could.
Okay, well that's it for the heats, so I guess it's time for us to pin the tail on the donkey and try and pick a list of contenders. Torba, I'll let you get your nominations in before Tobias consults the spirits.
And I need to pick, what do you want, top three?
Top three or three contenders that should be in the final, with a potential winner.
Kristina Amparo, Jon Henrik Fjällgren, Måns Zelmerlöw, and I want to pick Berang Miri as well. In the final, I'm not sure that Måns or Erik Saade, that I also think is in the final, and that's five then. I don't think they will be contenders for the victory before I've heard their songs.
Strong stuff. Tobias, what revelations have you got for us this time?
I think that Jon Henrik Fjällgren is definitely one to watch. I think he's definitely in the final. And then, of course, Måns, Erik. But I'm more sure about Måns than Erik to reach the final. I think that if Erik goes into Andra chansen, then he's doomed already. Doomed and out and gone. I think Elisa Ryd and Rickard Söderberg is one to watch out for. And then I'm going to stay strange and still say Marie Bergman and Sanna Salomonsen.
Oh, you're strange.
Yes, and proud.
Yes, you are. Yes.
I said Austria will win, didn't I? That was strange too.
Well, given the lack of promotion that Melodifestivalen has had so far, I know I'm certainly not as clued up as last year. I would tend to say that I think Erik is nailed on for the final, and I think it'll be. I think Krista would have arranged it so there is a battle between both him and Måns. But I also look at Jon Henrik Fjällgren making the final, getting quite high up. I remember last year when the international juries made special reference to Linus Svenning, and I think they might try and do the same this time. So I could see him probably getting about third or fourth in the final, if he gets through, of course. But those are kind of my three. Outside of that, I'll follow your advice and may even go for Kristina Amparo. Before we hopefully meet again to discuss the Melodifestivalen final, we have a Finnish national final. Now, by the way, Tobias also predicted Soft Engine would win last year. I did that one too. What do you think of the songs this year, and how do you think the result will be affected by the jury, Tobias?
Given the fact that I've only listened to the songs about once, some of them not even in full, I haven't really focused on the Finnish final yet. I think that everything sounds really nice. It's very well produced this year, and there are good voices and all of that. I'm not so sure about the level of songs. I think the songwriting is still lacking a little bit. Many of the songs they could really benefit from a bit of tweaking. If they could be improved easily, but it's too late now. I'd say my top bet for Finland is Saturn Circus, boy band, which they do sound very international. They have a record label behind them. They've been sort of trying to break other markets. Norway, for instance, they've had I think they had a minor hit in Norway already, and they seem very likely to run away.
Do they know how to sing with their eyes open?
Yes, they do.
Excellent.
Because at least half of them are Finnish Swedes, so they know how to think Krista Siegfrieds.
Lovely.
Yes, but then again, you never know. As you said, they've taken out the jury. There is no more expert jury, which in part is a good thing, and in part, when the televoters consists only of the Finnish audience, you never know what they will throw at you, because they can suddenly channel that Europe probably wants something that sounds like a record played backwards and vote for that.
Are they still allowed to vote about 70 times or something stupid?
I guess. I don't know. I haven't read the rules, but I would guess that has been taken out, because that didn't go down well last year. I'm hoping for a quality pop song anyway, and Saturn Circus would sort of fit into that description.
Yeah, so Azerbaijan, if you want to fix another final, Finland's your place. But at the moment, we're going to stick with Saturn Circus. Is anyone interested in the Danish final?
Well, it does have two winners. It has both Lisa Kable and Thomas Gesson battling it out. That could have been interesting, but Denmark hasn't been picking up music that I really like lately. For many years, it's been years since I had a song I really warmed to in a Danish final, so I wish them luck.
Right, anyway, I think it's about time we wrap things up. I would like to say a huge thank you, or rather tack, to Torba and Tobias. Torba, do you want to give your blog a plug ready for next week's song previews?
Yes.
Have to think that one over, right?
I will, of course, start blogging any minute now, actually, on Aftonbladet's Schlagerblog. It's aftonbladet.se. No, it's not. I don't really. Just Google Aftonbladet and Schlagerblog and you will find it.
A tip for British viewers that don't speak Swedish like myself is just use Google Translate and just copy all of Torba's slightly lewd comments into that and prepare to be shocked. And, of course, make sure you follow Tobias on Twitter. He is at Tobson Helsinki and regularly tweets about Eurovision matters. So, yeah, make sure you follow him.
Too.
Say again?
I have my blog too at tobsonineuroland.blogspot.com.
Of course.
And you won't have to Google Translate that.
No. Anyway, thank you, chaps. Until next time, goodbye.
ESCtips.com will return with another show soon. In the meantime, show us some love by following us and sharing this podcast with your Facebook and Twitter friends.
Until next time, auf Wiedersehen.